Welcome to r/ChoosingBeggars, where a choosing beggar can't afford to buy an item, so he demands that he is given it for free. Our next Reddit post is from Miss Cheyenne 14. I was in high school working a part-time minimum wage job, so I didn't have a lot of money. I was waiting for a bus when I saw a homeless man asking everyone for money. I gave him what I had on me, about $2 and some change. He then asked me if I had a $5 bill. I was pretty taken aback by this and told him no. The bus came and the bus driver let him get on for free. He asked everyone else on the bus for money, but everyone said no. He then came back to me and asked if I was absolutely sure I didn't have $5. I told him no, again, and he got off the bus at the next stop. Obviously you don't have to thank me for giving you money, but the asking for more felt pretty uncomfortable. Our next Reddit post is from iron_mollusk. Walking home tonight, just picked myself up a reduced sandwich from Spar for 40p, I'm broke as shit, and was asked by a homeless man if I could get him a sandwich.
I spent all my money, i.e. the princely sum of 40p on my own dinner, but seeing as this guy has it harder than I decided that the kind thing to do was offer him my sandwich.
He needs it more than I do probably. Right? So I give him my sandwich. He has a look at the packet, opens it up and takes a bite, so I'm here thinking great, I've done a good deed, karma will get me back, so my own financial position is irrelevant. The man then proceeds to take a bite and then immediately spits it out, throwing the slice to the floor. He then tells me that my sandwich is disgusting, followed by a quick and merciless fuck you and your sandwich. So here I am, down half a sandwich, being mocked by the universe and feeling rather hungry. Our next Reddit post is from SpikeRocks21. So, about 6 months ago I had a new tenant move into my basement suite. Guy was young, and couldn't provide any references or a cosigner as he was moving out of his parents' house for the first time, and apparently things were rocky at home. I decided to take a chance on him as he seemed like a genuine person, and I can empathize with his situation, having gone through the same thing when I first moved out. He worked at a nearby grocery store and provided proof of income at the time. After about a month, I started to notice that his car almost never left the driveway. I left it alone for a bit, but after a couple weeks I approached him one day outside and asked if everything was okay at work. He said everything was fine, he just cut back his hours to focus on his other job as a streamer. He assured me that he would still be able to make rent. A week or so goes by and he starts to complain that he's getting poor internet connection and needs faster upload speeds to support a higher quality stream. I said he would either need to pay me the difference himself to upgrade the speeds, or he could arrange for his own service in the basement. He chose the former. Another month goes by and he tells me that he's going to be a bit late on rent and that he didn't have the money for utilities yet. I said that wasn't acceptable given the circumstances and that I would be reducing the speed on the internet as he wasn't able to pay the additional $50. He immediately starts into a story about how he's really growing his channel and that he'll be making a lot more money soon. I didn't believe a word of it and told him he needed to have the overdue amount by month's end or I would start eviction proceedings. Another few days go by and I see a series of large Amazon packages start to arrive. He was very obviously assembling a new computer. I chose not to confront him about it as it wasn't my business as long as he caught up on rent. Sure enough, come the end of the month he only had a fraction of the overdue rent and didn't have anything for the next month's rent or utilities. I'd had enough and told him he needed to get out as soon as possible or face eviction. He got really agitated with me, but said he would have his friends come over the following day to help him move to a friend of his place. I wake up to furious knocking on my door the following morning. He launches into a rant about how my reducing the internet speeds prevented him from seeing any growth on his channel and that it was my fault that he hadn't made enough money to pay rent. I said I didn't care and told him he needed to be out by end of day and pay me the rent he already owes me as soon as possible. 20 minutes later he's at my door again, this time begging me to let him stay and asking me to upgrade to even faster internet than last time. I told him to get lost and his friends helped him move out later that day. Still haven't gotten a transfer for the overdue rent, lol. Our next Reddit post is from Madbra3991. A few days ago, I walked to the local grocery store to buy about $25 worth of groceries. When I left the store, CB was asking for money to buy food. So I offered him a couple Fuji apples. He said no, so I offered a bag of chocolate MSMS. He said no. So my last offer was a 20 ounces bottle of ice cold Coke. He again said no, he only drinks filtered water. So I look at him, said okay, and just walked home. Those apples were very tasty that day. Our next Reddit post is from Miss Killian. Miso was picking up pizza, a chain that rhymes with Pomelos, when approached by a woman. She asked Miso to please buy her a pizza for her hungry kids. Miso is a sweet softie and always tries to help people. Besides, the pizza are pretty inexpensive. A medium one topping is $7, so they said, of course, come order one and I'll get it. The woman proceeded to order close to $50 worth of pizzas and wings. Miso just rolled their eyes, paid and left with our small order. I said I would have shut the woman down. She said a pizza, but So just shrugged and said, well, I guess she had a lot of kids. And maybe she did, but she still took advantage of a kindness. Luckily, it wouldn't sway So from helping anyone else in need. Cut to me, around a year later, and a man approached me on the way into Mexican restaurant and asked for a taco or burrito, only to order the most expensive steak fajitas on the menu. I guess we're both easy to spot targets. Update, I told So we were getting a little chastised in the comments and they wanted me to add. Well, I had just sat through a sermon on Yom Kippur on helping the needy and poor, and I did say order what you want, so I did not want to go back on my word and felt extra food will never be a waste, and let it go. Our next Reddit post is from feuding_lords. On Sunday this week I started cleaning out my garage. I had 2 plywood floor cabinets, of pretty decent build quality, still in the original shipping packaging / with hardware / that I put to the curb labeled free. They are the kind that would go under a countertop, with a drawer and a door with an adjustable shelf inside. I didn't post it on Curb Alert or anything. A few hours later a man knocks very hard on my front door. I open the door and he asks frantically if he could put one of the cabinets on my front porch, which is covered, so it wouldn't get rained on while he transports the other to his shop. Apparently it's impossible to fit 2 standard-sized floor cabinets in the back seat of a 2008 Civic. He promised to come back later in the day to pick the other one up, so I said sure, no problem. Spoiler alert, he never shows up. 2 days go by and I now have to lug this thing back to the curb and put a new flyer on it saying it's free yada yada yada. Today, Wednesday, someone takes it. I didn't see who, I'm just glad more clutter is gone. I leave around 5 p.m. to pick up my kids from summer camp. As I'm pulling out the driveway, the guy from Sunday is standing on my porch doing the WTF hand motions at me. I roll down the window and he, I shit you not, says these exact words. Hey, where's my cabinet? I have to pat myself on the back for not being a jerk to this guy. I'm working on my anger issues, so this was a big thing for me. I just calmly say, I'm sorry, you said you were coming back Sunday and you didn't. I assumed you weren't coming back and I put it back on the curb. He goes, well, I wish I had known you were just going to give away the other. Now I'll have unmatching cabinets in my shop. I just said, oh, that's too bad, and left. Life's hard sometimes. Our next Reddit post is from Nicola Crackle. This happened in primary school. At the time I was a warden, so a few others, and I got to leave class early at the end of the day to set up, but also had to stay a few minutes after to put everything back. On this day, as we were packing up, I found a $10 note on the ground and offered to shout all the other wardens a drink and a pie, being $2.5 each for the 4 of us, at the nearby dairy. It was a cheaper time. Everyone chose their $1 drink and $1.50 pie, but one girl wanted a $2 drink and $2 ice cream, expecting someone to just give up theirs. I told her she can have a cheaper ice cream and drink that came to $2.5, but she wanted those specific ones and wouldn't change her mind, saying it's not even my money and that since I offered to pay I should just not get anything for myself. I told her no, and that since she didn't want to be fair she will get nothing. I ended up spending her share on lollies of the rest of us. Note, a warden is a student traffic guard that helps other students cross as the major after-school streets. Our next Reddit post is from Already Unwritten. URL. Our next Reddit post is from Excessively Detailed. When I was 16 and prom sucked, we ended up with our dates at the nearest club. At that age I had little to no money, but one of the upperclassmen slipped me a bit of cash to help get my date and me inside. Spirits were high and I was already half drunk but still very socially awkward. And at some point when we were shooting the shit, he happened to say, politely, quietly, that it wasn't a problem, I didn't have to pay him back, and he didn't mind helping me out. Before I had a chance to think, and this sticks with me decades later, I blurted out, loudly enough for people to hear, no, if you were actually helping me out you would have paid the total price, for both of us to get in. Alex. You had every right to throw my dumbass down the hill and leave me to bleed out, but you were too cool to let that even faze you. You probably don't even remember it, but I do. There were a lot of bullies in school, but you were one of the few who treated me like a person, and didn't deserve anything like that. Wherever you are, I hope you're slaying it. And for what it's worth, I promise you it won't happen again. I hope I can make it up to you one day. Our next Reddit post is from _typesome. A word-for-word quote from one of my customers today. She gets a free medical device through her insurance that she isn't happy with. She called inquiring about a premium product that we offer, goes for thousands of dollars, and she knew the cost. She started off by saying, I'm looking to buy one of your small, lightweight units like your, insert model name. Now I don't have money to buy one, but I still want one. You need to figure out how to get me one for free or I'm canceling my contract with you people. Sometimes I really hate being in sales. The crazy part is that this is a very frequent occurrence even though we make it very clear that our premium products are not covered by insurance and the cost is everywhere, so there are no surprises. Our next Reddit post is from Rachie Powell. This happened a couple of years ago. I was sat having a coffee with a friend in Costa, a British coffee chain, when I noticed a woman going from person to person asking for a cup of tea. People were just ignoring her, and it made me feel pretty bad, so when she came to me I said sure I'll get you a tea, and her face lit right up. At the counter, instead of asking the barista for a tea, probably the cheapest item on the menu, she asked for a large hot chocolate with cream and marshmallows, one of the most expensive items on the menu. This pissed me off a bit, but I paid for it anyway, told her to have a nice afternoon, and made my way back to my friend. About 10 minutes later, the same woman asked me for a cigarette. I don't smoke and I told her this. So instead she asked for some cash. She obviously saw me as a weak target, but I told her no, I hope she enjoyed the drink but please leave me to catch up with my friend. She promptly left, asking people for money on her way out. Thankfully this hasn't put me off helping people out if I'm in a position to do so, but I most certainly won't be offering to buy her a drink again. Our next Reddit post is from GeneralWaste0. Don't know if this counts, but I really needed to rant. Me and my sister only have a small age gap, so it's not uncommon for us to share clothes and general things we both might need, but lately she's been so demanding. The other day, she asked to borrow a bag. I offer her a nice black one that I don't use anymore, but she insisted that I gave her my new bag which I was using that day. The next day was quite hot and I had just come back home from a day out. I asked my dad if I could borrow the fan. We only have one for a bit until I cooled down, only to bring it to my room and hear my sis screaming that she's boiling and I should sit in the heat even though she hadn't bothered asking for the fan whilst I was out. Then, today she states that she needs to curl her wigs. I offer her an expensive set of self-heating curlers, which work as they cool down. She instead insisted that she wants to heat up the wigs with straighteners and that I need to give her my brand new foam rollers which I had purchased to use tonight. She might not be the worst CB on here, but she constantly bombards me saying I'm selfish and I can't help think maybe I'm being unreasonable, but at the same time I can't borrow her things I'm using, right? Context: she refuses to get a job to pay for her own things, so instead she guilts my parents into buying them for her. I've brought her stuff in the past to avoid situations like this, but she's relentless in leeching off of us all. Our next Reddit post is from Deadmemes 2017. Cross post. So a friend of mine asked me if he could borrow my car for a week since there are no rental cars available in the area while his gets repaired. His truck had a recall. We're good friends, so I said sure, you can take my truck, just put insurance on it and you can borrow it for a week. He proceeds to tell me that my truck, a old late 90s beater, is not good enough, the AC doesn't work, and he wants to take my new Audi I just bought. I reply no, and he even offered to pay me to take my car. He then gets very angry with me. I won't let him take my daily driver. And it's evolved into a fairly large argument. At the end of the day, I offered to give him a truck free of charge and has a choosing beggar attitude about it. I eventually said he can't borrow anything after throwing a fit about not letting him take my nice new vehicle. Our next Reddit post is from Nicola Brinks. When I went to the supermarket the other day, I noticed a homeless man sitting outside. I didn't have cash with me, but on my way out I offered him a few of the apples I'd bought, as I suspect he doesn't get a lot of fresh fruit. He pulled his nose up and said, "Don't you have money? I need €5. All I could think to reply was, "I have apples." Our next Reddit post is from Davob. TLDR, idiot neighbor tried to get me to work for free while he would pocket a big chunk of cash for my work. 15 or so years ago, yeah, quite some time ago, I'll recount the story as I remember it. I'd found myself in a weird situation where I'd been left jobless after leaving my previous job to start a new one. The new job never materialized and I found myself out of work. Thankfully I'd kept enough savings to cover my mortgage and bills for a few months. One of my neighbors, whom at this point I'd been friendly with for a few years, was a self-employed air conditioning fitter. I'd mentioned to him my predicament over a drink at our local bar, and he mentioned he may be able to help me out in the short term with some small jobs he had coming up. Great. I thought. A few extra dollars won't hurt, right? Plus doing some manual work may be just what I needed. Well, a week passes and my neighbor gives me a call and mentions he has a friend that needs some development work. I am a software engineer by trade, done, and would I be interested in being introduced to them? This surprised me given his background as a tradesman, but sure, this sounded great. Sure. I said, let me know their details and I'll set something up. He looked at me puzzled and said, No. I'll set it up, you just need to come on a call when I ask you to. Okay? Alarm bells were starting to sound in my head. Okay, just what exactly is this work? I asked. He responded that they were looking for someone to do a quick once-over of their website, nothing too serious. Apparently they'd had an agency build it for him a few years prior, and needed some maintenance work done. Now this isn't exactly my area of expertise, but I did have a grounding in web development, though my knowledge was a little outdated. This is where it got weird. I asked him how much his friend was willing to pay for my time. His response is permanently etched in my memory. What? If anyone's going to pay you, it will be me and my business, but since you are out of work right now, you've got loads of free time to just do this as a favor for me. I politely declined his overly generous offer. He immediately got mad at me, shouting down the phone things like, you can't decline this, I've already told my friend I know someone that can do the work. And you're going to claim job-seeking benefits anyway, that'll be good enough payment. The conversation lasted a few more minutes with me trying to get him to see at least a little reason. We had been friendly for some time after all. Enough was enough and I hung up. 30 minutes later, my doorbell rings. I was in the middle of typing out some emails and just about to start doing some general chores around the house. Surprise, surprise, it was my neighbor. He was so offended that I hung up on him that he just had to give me a piece of his mind. Needless to say, I wasn't going to take much more of this and just closed the door on him, moved to another room and ignored the banging at my door. As fate would have it, I found a new job pretty quickly. The company I ended up working for was run by a great guy that I got on with really well. Over lunch, nearly a year after the ordeal above, I found out that my boss knows my idiot neighbor as well as the client that wanted the work done on his site. They'd been friends for years. Not only was the description of the work completely wrong, but the client were also willing to pay big dollar for someone to work in-house on their site for a year. I'm so glad I dodged that bullet, though living near to that guy did take its toll. If anyone cares, the idiot neighbor moved away a few years later. Good riddance. Our next Reddit post is from most_neighborhood_56. Not sure if this is really a choosy beggar or just a regular beggar. When I was working at my last job, I had this coworker that was a real piece of work. One of my most memorable interactions with her was when I bought a new coffee cup into the office. I had had it for about a week before she came into my cubicle and tried to get me to give it to her. CB, wow, that is such a pretty cup. Me, thanks. Yeah, isn't it cute? I got it at Michael's. CB, it has an R. For Rosa. Me, I guess it could be, but I was thinking more for my name. You know, since it's my cup. CB, but it has an R. Me, yes, I know it has an R. CB, can I have it? Me, no. CB, why not? Me, because it's mine. CB, but it's so cute. Me, yep, that's why I bought it. CB, why can't you just give it to me and go buy another one? Me, because I don't want to. Why should I give you my cup? CB, because I want it. It has an R for Rosa. It went back and forth like this for a few more minutes and finally I told her that I was done discussing it with her. Got up from my desk, took the cup with me to the break room, washed it out, came back and hid it in a drawer. Our next Reddit post is from Luda Desane. I almost ran out of gas. I'm at a gas station. A minivan pulls up in the lane across from me. As I'm about to leave, the driver says, "Hey, you. Hey, I need to talk to you." It was weird. This guy was summoning M with a finger motion to come closer. Odd for a complete stranger. An elderly lady was in the passenger seat, could not see the passengers in the back. He gives me a story on how he just came from the children's hospital and needed gas to drive home to another city. I offered to buy him gas as I felt I should pay forward my luck finding gas. Then, he tells me not to buy him gas. He starts talking about how his family needs snacks for the ride home. So, I offer to buy him food from the store. Then, perturbed, he says he only accepts cash. I tell him I don't have any cash. Then, he instructs me to go to the ATM in the store, literally giving me instructions, telling me what to do as if he was my manager. I tell him don't carry an ATM card. He just drives off. Guess he didn't need gas. Thank you so much for watching these tales from Reddit. Consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video if you enjoyed. Also consider checking out one of our other videos.